Let's hope the clicker works. Still testing it. It does.
Hi, everybody. I'm Astha Singhal. I run the AppExchange security review as a part of product security at Salesforce.
And I'm Manishi Singh. I'm part of the technical evangelist team, but I also run a team which helps with getting the apps ready for security review in line. So I call it the security review operations team. So we'll be talking to you about a bunch of things today, primarily around the process of security review, what's important, what you should look at. Okay, forward-looking statement. You all must have seen this. Salesforce is a publicly traded company, so make any purchasing decisions based on what is available in the marketplace today. Okay. Sorry, clicker is, okay, I hope this works now. Do you mind just doing it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So why is security important? We as a company, everybody knows Salesforce is a cloud company, and in the past so many years, we have seen more and more customers move the data from their on-premise systems onto the cloud. And having heard so many things about breaches and a bunch of things, it's very, very important that everything which runs on our cloud is secure. So we are trusted by our customers for their data, and that's why it is very important that we take security very, very seriously. In fact, you might have seen everywhere, trust is our #1 value. We have to take care of our customers' data, and that's more important to us than anything else. So when we move to the from general security to AppExchange, and we talk about why AppExchange security is important to us, AppExchange is an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem of various types of partners who have applications and who also are consultants. And when partners are putting their applications on the AppExchange, which will be installed by customers, where customers' sensitive data will reside, it is very important that those applications are secure. We look at those applications and ensure that the customers can trust those applications. And if you look at it, there's a big benefit to it, because when customers want to buy something and they understand that this is secure, they don't need to go and ask somebody else to go and test the application for them. They don't need to have security engineers on their side to test every single application they're installing. So it's a big benefit to our ISVs that they sell their applications only after they have gone through the process, and customers can verify that. So how do we secure our ecosystem? Now, there's a bunch of things out here on the slide, but our platform, or what we call as an app cloud, is secure in itself. Everything we talk about, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, all of that is inbuilt for protection by the platform itself. And then after that, you start writing your application. When you start writing your application, you go through let me put this. Okay. When you write an application, we ensure that we go through the process of security review on that. So what is the process of review? We do initial review of the application to ensure it is secure. Oftentimes, applications do not clear the first time, or once a fixed amount of time has passed. It could be 1 year, it could be less than that, depending on the number of changes in the application. We would also do re-reviews. And then finally, spot checks are once in a while, point in time testing to ensure that everything which is running or which has been on the AppExchange is still secure. Somebody look at this. Okay, I'll keep continuing. I'm sorry for the flickering we are seeing out here. So then we've also provided tools. There are code scanner, which everybody knows that we have a checkmarks code scanner available to ISVs to scan their code and ensure the patterns are not anything which will be flagged by a security team. We provide a web scanner for any application which runs outside the Salesforce ecosystem to make those calls and ensure that the APIs are secure. And then obviously monitoring services. Content, there's a huge amount of content we have published over the past many years. There's an entire developer web page where we have everything on security. And we have also a bunch of Trailhead modules now talking about the security review process, how to do secure coding, So once you do all of that, your developers will be kind of very much confident on not just how to submit for review, but also understand how to actually code securely. And finally, it's the partners. Partners are building these applications. It's a shared responsibility between them and us to maintain this ecosystem and retain this security of it. So we expect that everybody follows the best practices we have published as the content, continue using those on a regular basis, and then reach out to us if you have questions. So there's a bunch of people who are involved in the security review process. Now these are the people from our side. We have a partner team at Salesforce who works with all the partners. There's somebody called the partner account manager who's your point of contact for all business questions, etc. There's also a technical evangelist. Now, I understand not all of you may have a technical evangelist or may not have met them yet, but for that specific reason, we have created a security review group on the partner community. So anytime you have a question which you need answers to, please make sure that you go and ask those questions out there, and there's a bunch of people monitoring those who will answer your questions. And then there's a security review operations team, which reviews every submission which has come in, which will answer your questions around the quality of submission itself, all credentials, etc. And then they will put that application to Astha's team for review. And that's the product security team. They actually review the application, they provide guidance, and they do a lot of work because they don't just go through the scanner. They do a lot of work manually looking at the code and ensuring that, through their human eyes, that everything is secure for the application. Another thing I want to mention is that we have a lot of partners called PDOs, Product Development Outsourcers. You can find them on the partner community too. These guys have been developing applications for partners for AppExchange for a very long time. They know what is a secure application. They know the secure coding practices. So please leverage them whenever you can, because they can help you get through the process much quicker than you trying to do on your own if you are kind of stuck in the process. Okay, Asta, you want to take it on?
All right. So let's talk about the review process itself a little bit more. So the first question a lot of times that we get from partners is they don't actually understand what do we test and why do we test it. So really the basic rule that we follow as the security team in terms of scope is we follow the data, right? So for us, what we are trying to secure is the Salesforce data, right? So for example, you have your users who would be interacting with different parts of the Salesforce core part of your offering, right? So you have native code, which is Apex, Visual Force, Lightning, that you may have written. Now you might be connecting that with an external API or an external UI, or you might have an external system where you're sending the Salesforce data, right? So you might be connecting with some external integrations from your native code or directly from the UI in any way, like maybe writing a web service in Apex or just having an iframe inside a Visual Force page. So there's all different sort of ways, right? And then you could have other client apps that's actually accessing those same data sources. So really, for us, we will do full end-to-end scope testing on everything that is potentially touching Salesforce data or could impact Salesforce data. So a lot of times you could say that, oh, I'm only making these 3 API endpoints available to my native package, but you want to test everything that lives there. The reason for that is if there is a vulnerability on another one of those APIs, that could potentially affect Salesforce customer data, right? Which is, in our case, our mutual customers. So for us, it's important to follow the data, and that's why we do this full scope testing. And this is something that is really a point of confusion for partners a lot of times, so I wanted to make sure that we call that up. Okay, so now that we talked about what do we test, let's see what the security review process looks like, right? So now from your standpoint, you will say, okay, let me design my app in terms of what I want to build, right? And once you figure out what you want to build, you'll probably figure out your architecture, you'll figure out your functional spec of what you're trying to build, and then you're actually going to go in the develop phase. In the develop phase, you're going to start writing the code, and then obviously there's going to be some amount of testing where you're making sure that the code you're writing is working as intended, and then you'll be at the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to release now. So today I'm going to talk about the different things in the security review process that you have available in each of these stages, right? So let's talk about the design phase at first. So the design phase is where we want you to actually go and review the Trailhead modules that we have made available for you. So my team has actually invested a lot of resources this year in building new secure coding content on Trailhead, because that's the way we want our partners to learn. Right? So Develop Secure Web Apps is our trail, and we just added the newest module on that trail around security for Lightning components, because that is something our partners and customers had been asking for since Dreamforce. So that is the newest module. It talks about the security architecture for Lightning and how do you build secure apps within the constraints of Lightning. And it's very comprehensive hands-on training. So when you actually go and sign up for an org within this Trailhead module, you're actually getting hands-on exercises where there is practice demos and challenges where you're actually learning how to write secure code as opposed to kind of just learning the theory of it. So definitely, go to the sfdc.co/devsecurity trail and take that module. This I recommend for all developers that are going to be doing development as a part of your AppExchange package. So the second thing that we released late last year was this App Cloud Security Dev Center. A lot of times, people will come and tell us, I have no idea where to find any guidance. And I was like, what are you talking about? We publish all this kind of stuff all the time. So what we realized was we're not doing a good job at making it available to you in a single place. So now you have the App Cloud Security Dev Center. It is the landing page for all things AppExchange security that you can possibly need. So in the start building, you'll see that there is the security requirements checklist. There is all the secure coding guides. Those two, I will say, is the bare minimum that you should be doing no matter what. And then obviously there is additional content, but all of it is now linked from the Security Dev Center. We even have an updates page where we actually kind of post sort of like a change log sort of thing, so you can see when something changes. It could be new guidance that's being published, or it could be new policies that have changed. Everything like that will be published on the updates page. So this is definitely your go-to for all things AppExchange security. And then obviously in the design phase, it's always easier to build security in as opposed to try to band-aid it on later, because security as a band-aid just does not work. So what you should be doing is at this point, you should be talking to our security engineers. We make technical security office hours available both in the US and EU time zones. We have, let's see, how many? 12 slots that are available throughout each week that you can actually talk to security engineers on my team that are actually doing these reviews. They can actually help you threat model your app design, and they can help you figure out things that'll be, oh, I'm just doing authentication wrong. It's actually not okay if I build this all the way. It's going to be a bunch of work for me to actually go back and change it. And then Manishi's team actually now runs submission office hours, so that you can ask your process-related questions at the submission office hours and then make more of the technical office hours available for actually answering real design questions. Okay, so now you've trained your developers, you have worked out your design, everything's good, now you're ready to start developing. Last year we invested, actually over the past few months, we invested a lot of effort in actually adding Apex and Visualforce rule sets in PMD. So PMD is sort of a source code analyzer, so it tries to combine looking for anti-patterns with some light kind of flow analysis. So it's not the same thing as check marks. You're not getting full static analysis, but you're able to find low-hanging fruit type of issues with this. Now it supports rule sets for Apex and Visualforce. It's an open source project. What you can do is you can go download any of these plugins. And you can go download any of these plugins, and now your developers can be getting continuous feedback as they're writing this code. And then obviously we're investing more and more in increasing support within the PMD scanner for Lightning as well. And then we're actually building plugins for Sublime and Atom, and then like a Force.com IDE integration for PMD. So again, this is not actually static analysis, but it definitely complements what static analysis does, because it helps you find anti-pattern sort of issues. And then this is actually something that we use internally that we wrote ourselves. So Providence it's a commit time analysis tool. So what Providence does is it will monitor your repos. It'll monitor all commits on your repos. And then you can, it has API so that you can actually hook it up with whatever is your ticketing system. You can hook it up with whatever you're using for source control. And you can use the Apex Visual Force rule sets that we have made available that we have now integrated with PMD to actually create investigations whenever you see an anti-pattern. Because a lot of times what can happen is if you're sending this to the developers directly, they might not know what to do with it. But if you have some sort of security experts on your team, you can use Providence to actually send those investigations to your security experts, and then they can kind of help guide some of that for the developers. And then you can yourself write new rule sets. You can tweak the existing rule sets. It's pretty easy. The rule sets is JSON-based. So definitely go check that out. And then I know that some of our partners may actually have a checkmarks license themselves where they have a big enough product that we can't support it with the limited license that we have available with checkmarks. So for that, we have actually created a better handoff process with checkmarks if you're actually using checkmarks for continuous integration on your end by working with checkmarks directly. And then all the Salesforce presets that we use ourselves, we have made available for free for any partner that's buying their own checkmarks license. So you can go download those from the checkmarks help page for Salesforce. Okay, so now at this point, hopefully you're getting feedback as you're writing the code, and then now it's time for testing, right? So obviously, everyone's aware of the Force.com source scanner, right? So that is the static analysis tool that we make available for our partners in a limited fashion for finding common security issues. And then it looks for commonly found issues in Apex, Visual Force, and Lightning. Now, this is actual static analysis, right? So for us, this is, we're investing a lot of time in actually building better rule sets for checkmarks. And then this is a scanner we want you to run before you submit for security review, so that everything that an automated scanner can find is already found. So now everything that is low-hanging fruit, or everything that is something we can detect, has already been detected, and the team can focus on the more complicated issues and actually give you kind of better output. And then obviously at this point, you went through the secure coding guidelines in the beginning, right? So you have to make sure that there is adherence to those secure coding guidelines. I actually talked to some partners who said that that is a part of their code review process when they do peer review with other developers. Checking for the secure coding guideline practices is a part of their peer review process, and that works really well for them. Because obviously, automated tools are not a substitute for manual testing, because automation only goes so far, right? Okay, now if you have a composite app, what that means is if you have something that is not Apex, Visual Force, and Lightning, we want you to run an automated web application scanner on there. So Zap is an open source project by OWASP, and we make really detailed guidelines available for you to how to run a good Zap scan, meaning how to get the most out of when you're running the Zap scan. And we also have Chimera, which is a fire and forget cloud scanner that runs Zap and a few other security tools as an engine in the background on Heroku. So what that is trying to do is, if you actually control the infrastructure and everything that you're running the Zap scan on, you can actually go and use Chimera, where you don't have to worry about getting a good spider of your website before running the scan and things like that. We do that for you. And then obviously, again, scanners are limited in terms of what they can find. So really using the OWASP top 10 guidance to figure out how to do manual testing for these issues on your external website as well. And then really integrating that into when you're doing testing for functionality as well. And then, so this is something that we released only a few weeks ago. We heard from partners that everything is all over the place. It's really hard for me to keep track of things, right? So now the Source Scanner portal is a centralized portal that lets you track and manage all the scans for all your different orgs in one place. And then you can schedule scans, you can download the scan reports directly from here, you can manage the scan credits that are available for your orgs, and you can search all the scans for your org. So really where we want to go with this is we want to combine this with the Chimera portal. We want to combine this with the office hour booking flow. We want there to be one-stop shop for you to get everything that is security review related. So the source scanner portal is definitely a great first step in that direction. So I would encourage all of you to go use it and provide us feedback so that we can make it even better for you guys. And then, okay, obviously now is the release place, right? So I'll hand over to Manishi and he'll talk to you guys about what do you need when you actually submit for the security review.
So we talked about the process of designing, developing, testing a code. Finally, you are ready to release the product. Now, before the product can be consumed by your customers in the AppExchange marketplace, it has to go through the process, and this is where you submit for it. So we have also, the technical evangelist team has published a set of Trailhead modules out there, which specifically cover what the security review process is about. So we don't talk about details of the secure coding guidelines because there are separate modules available for that. But here it walks you through the process of creating an application and how you submit for the process. So this will help your release team easily understand the process and not run into issues when they're actually submitting it. So here are some of the checks which we provide. This is a simple matrix which kind of tells you what is needed when you are submitting an application and for each kind of application. So for example, if it's just a force.com environment and it's 100% native, that means it sits completely on the force.com platform. Or we need the scanner report. If you move into something more, which is an external application, if it's a composite web application, we need the credentials for that application provided too. The kind of scanners, if it's a managed package, it has to be a managed package for a native application. If it's a Lightning component, it has to be a managed package. If it's an application which is half on Salesforce, half outside, it still needs to be a managed package. So this matrix kind of gives you what is needed for submission and how you do that. Okay. Now, common causes of delay. This is even in advance of the review actually starting to happen. We often see that the things which we had in the earlier page, those are not provided. Either scans are missing, or false positives are missing, or credentials to the external environment are missing. And these often lead to so many delays. We have seen often delays of 2 to 3 weeks just because of this, going back and forth because information wasn't provided for our team to start the review. So make sure that everything you provide, you give us the scans, you install the right version of the package, you give us the credentials, and if, for example, there are reports in the scan which you think are incorrect. Now, as I said, a scanner is an automated tool. It might find some patterns which you will think that, no, this is not an issue, or I have deliberately coded something because my business requirements need me to kind of code around a particular design pattern of security. So provide us with a guidance on why you did that. Give us a false positive document explaining the portion of the code you have done that and why you have done it. And we will take account of that while doing the review. Okay, kind of an eye chart, but basically there are two outcomes. You either passed or you failed. So if you fail, obviously we want you guys to pass in the first time as much as you guys want it as well. But there are options. There are office hours, to go back to the team, ask questions. The report which you get is basically done. The scan is a time box scan. We won't sit for like 10 days, 20 days scanning the entire application. We will have a fixed amount of time during which we will review the application. So we will give you an application which is, broad. It's not like deep into every single class of the application. But this is basically a pattern which you can use to go through your product and find similar issues everywhere. Do a review internally. Make sure that everything we found is not occurring anywhere else in the code. Fix those, run those scans once again, the automated ones, provide those environments to us, and then again submit for review. On the other side, if you've already passed, that's awesome. Now you can make your listing public on the AppExchange. Go ahead and start marketing and selling your application and supporting your customers going forward. Okay. That's all. That's pretty much the review process here. We did make it seem easy, but we understand it's not that easy. So we are here, for any questions. And obviously, we talked about those office hours. Do leverage those as well. Sure. Thank you.
So earlier you mentioned PMD, and it said Apex and
Yeah, so we have so far, so for having, oh yeah, the question is, does PMD support Lightning? So the short answer is no, because for adding support for a new language in PMD, we actually have to write a parser for that language, and then we have done that work for Apex and Visualforce, and then Lightning is still on the roadmap for us.
Will the Salesforce platform ever handle run and FOS checking in the future?
That's a great question. That's an ask which we are working with the product management, to work at that level. Sorry, the question is, will the platform do an automated check for CRUD and FLS so that you don't have to do that in the code yourself? That's an excellent question. That's a requirement which we are working with the product management. I do not have a timeline for that, but that is high on our priority. We're definitely working on that.
Out there that you should go and upload.
I already uploaded that.
Okay.
Okay.
No, you just have to make sure that everything works within Locker service. That is really, really important. So make sure that you're testing your application with Locker service enabled, and then make sure that all your components work with are compiled with API version 40 and higher. That's true for all things Lightning. Yeah.
Yeah, API version 40 was just released, and it's compatible with the Locker service. So we want that everybody who's releasing new components test their application with API 40.
Oh, and then we will make the slides available for download after the fact. So just go to the, I'll post a link to the Salesforce security Twitter handle.
Yeah. So we publicly always say it's around a 6 to 8 week time frame, though we're generally giving it back much quicker. We say that because we observe, which I mentioned, oftentimes just the information isn't provided to us. It takes 2 weeks for us to go and back and get the information. But we have been doing it pretty quickly now, between 2 to 3 weeks, but our published time frame is still 6 to 8 weeks because of taking into account those outliers of not having all the data with us.
And I think the important thing is give yourself enough time to go through the review, because that's how we'll be successful together. Because a lot of times what happens is partners haven't set aside enough time to go through the security review, and then they try to rush through the fixes when they try to resubmit, and then they will not do a comprehensive review, and then it's kind of just a vicious circle where they're not taking their time because they didn't account for enough time for the review.
Yeah, an important point I'll just add to that is for Dreamforce, our submission deadline for Dreamforce is August 25th. That's again with that, because we get a rush of applications who all want to launch at Dreamforce. So August 25th is the date by which you should submit for security review to ensure at least one round of review has happened for the application. Dreamforce is in the second week of November.
Go ahead, you had a question?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Are there any additional review steps for Lightning Components version 39?
Any? So any additional steps for version 49 for Lightning components, or version 40 and higher, basically?
Oh, so the biggest thing with version 40 is that means that your component has to comply with Locker service. So we rolled out the requirement for making sure you're doing testing with Locker service a few months ago so that you were ready for this change. So if you, in your dev org, if you're actually doing that testing already, then you should be good. But make sure that your component works with version 40, and that should be okay as long as you've been testing with Locker service as you're building. No, they won't. Starting July 1st, we will require all components. We sent out a partner alert about this a few weeks ago, and then starting July 1st, we're going to enforce version 40 and above mandatory for security review for Lightning components. Okay, are you talking about iframing in Visualforce or in Lightning? In Visualforce? Okay. Yeah, no, that's a pretty common design pattern. Like maybe we actually, so this is useful because, when we do these type of events, we kind of hear from partners of what are the gaps in our documentation. For example, last year, someone was like, there's no documentation for WebSockets and post message, so we added those guides, but thank you for the feedback. We'll definitely put that on our agenda.
A working example end-to-end or a tail-end module, like iframe integration with the security. So when somebody goes through the whole thing, it's going to be certified. So that will be, I guess, the best way of going forward. One another question I had was that I came to know that some of the people were able to use Facebook JavaScript dynamically, and
No, we don't. So we don't allow dynamic loading of JavaScript. And then the other thing to keep in mind is in Visualforce we don't allow it. In Lightning, that's not even going to work. Like once you have Locker Service and CSP, your apps are just going to break. So when you're talking about loading a JavaScript, you're talking about dynamic content, right? So we need to be able to review the content that you're loading. It can't be dynamically loaded at runtime.
then we can't use any of the published like Google Maps.
Well, you can. You can actually, create an unauthenticated iframe on another domain and then use a post-message bridge. So we're actually working with the TE team right now to publish documentation around like how to actually do that for like the Google Maps use case, because we see that partners have that as a potential use case. So using third-party JavaScript. So the biggest kind of risk there is loading dynamic content that we don't know what it's going to be. So if you load that in an authenticated domain, and then we know how that domain is interacting with the Salesforce domain, then we can review how it's interacting with the Salesforce domain, and that will stay the same, right?
So basically, you don't want the JavaScript and loaded in the Salesforce.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
iframe is fine.
Yeah, if you iframe it in an unauthenticated frame, that's fine.
You had a question?
Oh, it was actually related to APIs. Do we always have to run Zap and Chimera even if it's like a large corporation? Like if we want to like in Facebook API or Google API, we still need to run Zap or Zap scans again still?
Yes, we do. So there is a reason why these companies have public bug bounty programs. There is a reason why these companies have giant security teams. There is a reason why Salesforce lets its customers run, web app scans on our own product, right? It's because they're not infallible, we're not infallible. We want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence from a security standpoint when we're putting Salesforce customer data or giving these APIs access to Salesforce customer data. They would do the same thing if it was the other way around.
What's that Twitter?
Salesforce security. So it should, the Twitter handle is Secure Cloud Dev.
You could also ask a partner force or AppExchange. We'll make sure it gets to the right people.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much for your time.